Linda Saul-Sena, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. Can you tell people your story? So you were on city council 20 years, right?
Yes.
You're multi-generational
In Tampa?
in Tampa.
Yes.
Been here a long, long time. And you started off in urban planning,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
So how did you get interested in urban planning, and then what led you to get into politics?
Well, I was born and grew up in Tampa, and it was the world I knew. I grew up on Davis Islands, about 2 blocks away from my grandparents. I was born at Tampa General, and I had a very, classic childhood when I was allowed to cross Davis Boulevard. The world was my oyster because I could go anywhere on the island and ride my bike. Tampa was a very small town at the time. We felt really safe. My girlfriends and I, when we were 11 and 12, we could take the bus downtown, and that was freedom. So I went away to college in New Orleans. That was a huge awakening for me because New Orleans was such a great city.
Yeah.
This was before New Orleans was rich. This was before the oil boom. So it was decaying, but it was gorgeous. It was like this great faded beauty. And I took courses in, I was an art history major, but I took courses in architectural history. And I loved riding my bike in New Orleans and just looking at the fabulous homes and absorbing the neighborhoods. It really changed my idea of what a city could be. The streetcars were marvelous, and the French Quarter, of course, was great, but all the neighborhoods had their own grocery stores and restaurants and so much personality.
Yes.
So when I went to my junior year, I went to Italy, to Florence, Italy, and that really blew my mind in terms of how beautiful cities can be with public art and gathering spots. I came back to Tampa and looked around and thought, well, we have some of these qualities. We have the beautiful architecture in Ybor. We have the Medrev architecture in Davis Islands and Beach Park. And then we have the wonderful bungalows in Seminole Heights and West Tampa.
We've got the bones.
Yes. And I guess one of the virtues of being poor for a long time in New Orleans was that other than the debacle of building the Superdome and tearing down 100 acres of historic property, 100 acres.
Wow.
They were so poor, they never tore things down. And it was similar in Tampa. We reused things. So our cigar factories became used for other office uses or eventually residential uses. But we didn't lose as much as we might have. The biggest challenge here, of course, was the interstate creation.
Right.
But I came back here and I thought, well, this place really
Yeah.
has potential.
There's something to fight for here.
And when I was growing up, I was very fortunate. My dad and grandfather both had businesses that were located in old cigar factories. My dad had the factory on the corner of Howard and Cypress, it has a tower. This is in West Tampa. It's red brick. Right now, if you were to drive by there, your heart might break because there is a tree growing out of the roof because a person who owns it, Haywood Chapman, has refused to sell it or bring it up to code. So that makes me crazy. My grandfather's factory that's it. And see how sad it looks. It used to be extremely well kept, but the person who's owned it all these decades since my dad sold it has done nothing with it. And it has such great bones. And you can see in this photograph, you see a white building and then you see another sort of yellow brick building in between the white building and the red brick. That was Empire Mercantile, my grandfather's factory. He was my dad was a clothing manufacturer. He made Arnold Palmer pants and golf slacks and
Oh, wow.
and other pants, men's pants. And my grandfather had a brother named Mac. My grandfather was Fred. So their stores were called Free Macs. And it was a crazy little group, a group of crazy little tailors. And they had about 45 stores in West Central Florida of men's and boys' wear. So I, in the summertime, would be in the factories filing or stuffing envelopes. And I got to experience what West Tampa was like. There was the guy who came twice a day around 10 and around 3 with deviled crab and stuffed potatoes and coffee. And then you had the good bread at Alessi Bakery up the street. And there was a very cohesive sense of community in West Tampa. And I loved the old elevators in the factories that, they were clunky and big and
Huge
wooden.
doors.
Yes,
yeah.
and they went, vroom.
Yeah.
And so I think all that combined with living in New Orleans, combined with going to Ybor City, made me appreciate historic preservation and old buildings and the culture of a city. Oh, one more thing. When I was a kid, my mom signed me up for drama classes at the University of Tampa, which I was absolutely convinced was haunted. And there's this staircase there with these giant newel posts that look like chess pieces. And it really, really was spooky and great. And all that fuels a kid's imagination. I mean, I grew up in a classic 50s, 60s ranch, but these older places seem to have so much greater sense of mystery and intrigue, and they just made you...
They tell a story just by either being in them or looking at them. You look at, I'm not sure what's happening here. I think this factory we're looking at is being restored into, this was the hotel, correct?
No, this was my grandfather. Yes, it's being made into a hotel. This was the one that he owned.
And this is Nassau and Howard.
Yes, just up the street.
Which is a beautiful building. But when you look at it, you're looking at something special. Some of the new construction, this would be very expensive to replicate. I don't even know if you'd be allowed. There's different codes today, et cetera. But these properties are so important because they're just irreplaceable. So as a little girl, you would look at these and be inspired and be curious. And so when you got into your adult life, you kind of knew this is what I want to do. Something to do with what? Placemaking, urban design?
All of the above.
Yeah.
And basically, I knew that Tampa had this potential, and that there were only, at that time, I came back after college and after, a brief phase being a hippie farmer, where I discovered that really wasn't the best path for me. I came back here and thought, we need to do something about this, because things were really deteriorating in Ybor City in particular and in West Tampa. The good news is we didn't tear down more than we did, but we lost a lot, particularly with the construction of the interstate, which unfortunately wasn't unique to our community. I mean, every town in America that was of a certain scale had the interstate just tear the fabric of the community.
And it was a good excuse at the time to tear down what they referred to as blighted areas, these old abandoned neighborhoods or neighborhoods that were not performing in their eyes economically.
But you know the story, the backstory about all this, do you? Okay, so after World War II, there was the GI Bill. That money went to servicemen, white servicemen. I mean, shockingly that it was segregated, but they could only use it to buy new homes. They couldn't use it to fix up old buildings. So that's what spurred the suburbanization of America, coupled with Eisenhower building the interstates. So you had new communities that you could access by the interstates that went, outside of town. Mm-hmm. And because all this new money was going for housing in these external areas, the center of cities just deteriorated. Mm-hmm. Plus, in Tampa, for example, our zoning was really wacky, and you couldn't have a mixture of uses. So, for example, in Ybor City, this is something that Daryl Shaw is correcting, and he's building a variety of housing in areas that had been solely industrial. Mm-hmm. So when I was a young city council member, I realized that everything south of 7th Avenue was zoned industrial, so nobody who had an old house could borrow money from a bank to fix it up. And we had to change the zoning to allow that. So in America, you had two things going on. You had the streetcars and buses being underfunded, and you had cheap cars available. That was being promoted with, again, not a GI loan, but with money that was available at very low interest rates. And you had, see the USA in a Chevrolet.
And it was the hot new thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and people wanted new
Mm-hmm.
because, hey, it maybe had air conditioning, which I totally support. Anyway, so the center of cities were just left to languish.
Yeah. And also the advent of the shopping mall and these commercial shopping districts on these massive parcels in particular intersections, like Britain Plaza, I believe, is from the 1950s, these large shopping areas. So why go downtown?
Northgate,
You don't need to go
Southgate,
shopping
Eastgate,
downtown.
Westgate.
Yeah.
It's easier.
All of what we're talking about happened within 10, 15 years, which
Yes.
contributed basically to this urban decay.
Yes. Now, an interesting story that was my very first professional foray. I came back to Tampa and I wanted to work on making the city better. I'd worked as a waitress. I wasn't so good. And I thought it'd be better to work at something for free that was really meaningful and live with my parents, until I figured it out. So I went to the Tampa Hillsborough County Planning Commission and I said, I will be a volunteer. I will be a student intern. And I was allowed to work there. And I wrote zoning recommendations. I mean, then I learned and then they hired me, but I wrote zoning recommendations and I literally wrote the Davis Islands plan and the Hyde Park plan and the West Tampa plan. So I know these neighborhoods really intimately. Hyde Park was the first one that we did. And this is like shocking. But in 1975, when I started working on this, Hyde Park was considered an absolutely unattractive neighborhood, and you couldn't get a loan from a white bank. It turns out that banks were segregated, and there was a bank called Community Federal, and James Hargret was the loan officer there. So I'm working on the Hyde Park plan, and I met this young woman named Jan Abel, and she was an architect who specialized in preservation. She wanted to purchase with her husband a house on Newport, which is a very nice street, a block and a half off Bayshore. The house was $35,000, and she couldn't get a loan from a white bank. So she came to me and said, Linda, you got to go talk to the bankers. We can't get a loan. She ended up going to Jim Hargret, securing a loan from Community Federal. And later, we found out that, Hyde Park had been redlined, which is illegal, but it was going on at the time. We talked to all the banks, and then other banks started lending money. Then James Hargret became a state representative, and he became a preservationist because Jan talked to him about how great this is, and you can fix up old neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So he became, and he's Black, and it was very unusual. It is very unusual to have really passionate Black advocates for historic preservation. But he became one, and then he became a state senator, and he was amazing in terms of his support and initiatives for preservation. And he personally bought some properties and started fixing them up. He had his office there. His administrative assistant is Naya Young's grandmother.
Wow.
So she and I, not Naya, her grandmother, and I have been friends for all these decades and always worked together on preservation. Her name is Young Green, Lena Young Green. And she's the force. She's a dynamo. She's the force in Tampa Heights, behind the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association, the old church that was saved from the path of the interstate.
You know what?
And they have a community garden.
I met her. So I was invited to co-host a debate during that special election. This was in October. And we were meeting to discuss the details of the debate and the production of it and all that sort of stuff. And I showed up to the church instead of showing up at a different address. And there was a little old woman there, and she was the sweetest lady ever. And I asked her what her role was, and she basically said, I run the, I'm in charge of this place. And I was looking around thinking, this is the most beautiful building, but needs so much help. I mean, it's got exterior, it's got a lot of deferred maintenance. They probably just don't have enough money to do what they need to do. Plus, you got the interstate right next door, which probably causes problems, foundation, etc. Are we talking about the same lady?
Yes, absolutely
Okay, so
100%.
that's Naya Young's grandmother.
Yes.
Wow.
Who was Jim Hargrett's assistant, which is what got her into preservation.
No wonder Naya is such a sweet woman. That her grandmother was like this little positive force of light. She was super, super sweet lady.
Can I tell one more story about her?
Yes.
So she marries, and her husband had diabetes, and he was. This happened before when Jane Castor was chief of police, and Bob Buckhorn was mayor. He was driving unsteadily. The police pulled him over. They assumed he was on drugs. They shackled him, not shackled, but handcuffed him, put him in the back of the police car, and he died. And the reason was he was in diabetic shock. And not Naya, her grandmother took this issue to Tallahassee, and now all law enforcement people have to be trained how to recognize when somebody is going into like a
medical emergency.
And to have orange juice or something in the car that they can give them, sort of the Narcan of diabetic shock, to help them stabilize. I thought that was the most extraordinary story that she, instead of suing the city.
Sure.
But I just have to say, for the record, the city never officially apologized to her. And the 2 months before, at the State of the City, in April, her family had been held up as an example of something really exemplary, because her son is the principal of a high school, and her, she just has this amazing family.
Owen Young, correct? I'm kind of getting to know the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've just never forgotten that. Anyway, the latest time I worked with Lena was to keep the interstate that was being built by Robles Park, that beautiful pond, to keep it from being 12 feet of concrete, but rather to do a vegetative buffer. And I wrote about it for Creative Loafing. I talked to FDOT. I went to public hearings for the Transportation Board, completely unsuccessfully. It was so frustrating. They said, well, we have plans and it's going to be 12 feet of concrete.
Can I ask you, and this is, answer this how you want, of course, but you are such a strong advocate for quality design in urban spaces, and you've worked with a lot of people that share that same value. Why has it taken it decades and decades to get where we are, and why do we still have these issues? I mean, to me, when you talk about an interstate system next to a park, it's sort of obvious you would want to do a buffering and vegetation and be respectful of the people that visit a park. What are the forces you work against generally?
I'm so glad you asked. It's ignorance. Education, to me, is the secret of the universe. It's people don't know what they don't know, but particularly two types of engineers. And I'm saying this with love in my heart, because my dad was an engineer. But traffic engineers are educated in a very most are educated in a limited way. And the good news is they've changed the name from the Florida Road Department to transportation. And there are some enlightened and progressive transportation engineers, like the urban planner Josh Frank, who said, let's not, continue the interstate, let's make it into a boulevard. But the majority of the people I've worked with at the Florida Department of Transportation are just, let's pour the cement. They just don't think more broadly about how to integrate what they need, which is to get people from point A to point B, into the community without harming the community.
Do you see that shifting throughout your career? Is it more positive now than it was decades ago?
Slightly, kind of, sort of. I've seen individuals become enlightened. Can I tell you a story that I'm very proud of?
Sure.
So several secretaries of transportation for District 7 ago, I met with the new district. I was the chairman of the MPO at the time. And I said, we're spending so much on roads. Let's spend some money on public art. And he looked at me like I had three heads. I mean, really, like public art. We worked together, let's say, a decade. By the end of it, I got the transportation to do where they widened I-4 through Ybor City. I got them to pay for a poem in the sidewalk about the school that had been there. So there was a school called St. Benedict the Moor, and there were these nuns who taught black kids at the school. This was in 1916. And the nuns were jailed for teaching black kids to read because the state legislature had made it illegal for a white person to teach a black person to read. So this is just like the most ridiculously shocking story. Eventually the law was changed, the nuns were let out of jail, and the school continued. But where the school had stood was immediately adjacent to where the interstate was being widened. And we managed to talk FDOT into allowing 40 homes, little casitas, to be moved out of the path of the interstate widening and onto this block. And it's very charming. If you go down Columbus Drive, it's between 19th.
Yeah, I just want to see this, David, as you explain it. So Columbus Drive and 19th.
Columbus Drive between 19th and 18th.
Up here in Ybor.
Oh, this is so cool that he can do that.
Yeah.
So these homes, you'll see them, that block. See I-4, okay, north of I-4. You see the homes that are in a grid over to the right. See where it says J.C. Newman Cigar Factory?
Laser pointer. Flip it around. Oh. Yep.
Am I pointing?
Yeah, hit that button. There we go.
Okay. So.
No, hold the button.
Oh.
Yeah. So
it's a solid block, so it must be this block. Okay, so it's, if you go down, on this sidewalk, there is a poem. James Tokely used to be the city's poet laureate. And in the sidewalk is this 13-stanza poem about the nuns and the kids. And there's a photograph of the nuns and the kids right there.
Wow.
So I was so proud that I finally got FDOT to do something. I mean, I did not do this alone. See the dates of the houses? Can you see that? Oh, those are the addresses. Sorry. But anyway, they were all old casitas. They were all moved out of the path of the interstate. And this neighborhood was created. And you see this, I love this pointer. This brick street.
A gift from Karen Kress. She said, you need a laser pointer.
Absolutely. So this street was created. And, oh, this is marvelous.
Yeah.
So you can see.
Shout out Google Earth Street View.
Yeah.
Well, they've got the damn thing blurred out.
If you can go
for some reason.
Oh,
there it is. Cool.
Yeah. Yes. Do that again. Here, over here. This
P.S.
is amazing.
By the way,
this is
side note. What a great alley. Go back, David. Once.
Oh, it's
to shift
paved.
around.
It's paved.
But look at what they've done with the drainage, the infrastructure, the street lights, the brick road,
the underground utilities.
That to me is what West Tampa needs to lean into.
Absolutely. So this is now this adorable little block, and it has the poem there. So fast forward just a little bit. The guy who was head of District 7 went to the private sector. And I went to see him in his office, probably to ask for money for some worthy cause. And he had a photograph of the inauguration of the poem in his office. He was so proud of that. And I thought, that's what we need to do to create history, heart, connectedness. It's all about quality and knowing these stories. These are, to me, very important stories.
Why is a project like this, important and not important to you? Yeah, there's the whole poem right here. And it even has, it looks like on the top left, there's like a description of
it's
sort
a
of
photograph,
what.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it is a photograph of the school?
Of the school and the nuns and the kids, St. Benedict the Moor.
So why is it important? And again, not important to you. I mean, you appreciate the history, the stories. Certainly the Black community needs more of its history exposed like this, right? More people should know about this stuff. But putting that aside, why is it important for a city to focus on this?
Because it's all part of us, and it gives us depth
Hmm.
and resonance. And so many people move here, and the development patterns don't necessarily enhance a sense of community.
Mm.
I mean, part of it has to do with our shopping patterns, that we don't have the neighborhood store where everybody sort of gets to know the other people in the neighborhood.
Right.
But we could have this. And a few people, a while back, his name was Bill Butler, Bill Bishop. Bill Bishop did a development where he tried to create a town center in this new large development. I feel like there have been a few initiatives to do this. I feel like Daryl's really trying to do it in Ybor. We human beings like to be connected.
Yes.
And I think we also, for those few beautiful months of which we're in right now, we like to walk. And if you can create a neighborhood that's walkable, that is just a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And people will want to be there.
The small businesses you brought up too, right? Like my family, your family was a department stores.
It wasn't a department. It was smaller than that. It was a store.
Smaller.
It was just a store.
Clothing stores.
Clothing stores.
But, you know, my family had a hardware store. Other families were the grocers. I've talked about this a ton on the show. But that's how people were connected. We needed each other. You know, now you just click a button and your package arrives. There's no human connection to that. I think that's a reason why people are disengaged with one another today, is because there's no consequence to your interactions if it's just a comment online versus someone I know and I buy my goods and services from.
But as we've shifted to getting physical things through the mail, so many of us are involved with places that we have personal services, like where I take a Pilates class, or
Right.
where you go swimming, or
Yes.
where the kids have an after-school activity,
Mhm.
or where we go for entertainment of some kind. And those, I think, are maybe replacing some, or the nail salami. It sounds all these superficial things, but they're real things, and they're in neighborhoods, and people physically have to go there because you can't outsource getting your nails done. You have to do
Even
it.
just the hangout. Like if you look at a place
Coffee
like-
shops.
yeah, coffee shops, but I'm even thinking like Hyde Park Village. People just go there to be around other people, crack a laptop, take a call, meet someone for coffee, and or go on a Saturday and walk through that little area.
Yes.
You know, people crave community space. And I think what Daryl's doing is in line with what Ybor exemplified 100 plus years ago. And a lot of it comes down to those codes. You know, the reason why that development, in my opinion, will be successful is because the codes are written in a way that's very cohesive to the walkability, the zero lot lines, the mix of use, the relaxed parking codes.
Yes.
You know, the development pattern in that district lends itself to a tight, walkable community. And you just can't legally basically build that in other parts of the city. So for a developer with the capital and the vision to come into this community and execute something like that,
It's fabulous.
it's fabulous. It's exciting. It's what I think this whole city has craved for a long, long time.
Yes.
Bring Ybor back to its roots.
I feel like Midtown, which is certainly on a different scale,
Yeah.
but they're trying to create a town center, and
Yes.
people go there and wander around, shop around. And
Yeah.
and we can point to the places. There aren't enough of them, but the places that have been created like that are really popular. Really popular.
There's a craving for it. And it's good economically too. You go out to dinner and you go get a drink at this different place and you get ice cream afterwards. Now I'm sharing the money. These drive-to developments, these single-use commercial areas on our main roads, you know, if you just drive and spend your money at one place, it's not necessarily as good for the economy as like a vibrant social center with mixes of use, people living upstairs, people spending money downstairs. Is it appropriate in every single area of the city? No. I mean, we're not turning back the clock and going back to the way things were at the turn of the century, right? From the 18 to the 1900s, which is where Ybor really exploded. But in particular areas, it makes a lot of sense to move in that direction. And my hope is the rest of the urban core can get more in line with an Ybor code,
Yes.
further reducing parking minimums, further maybe even eliminating building heights in particular areas, things
Well,
like that to
it's
allow flexibility.
I agree completely, and it's very controversial because right now I live on Davis Islands, and people are slugging it out over the
Yes.
future of the commercial core. So, because 1,000 years ago I wrote the Davis Islands plan, I'm really familiar with it. Davis Islands was created to be a variety of uses. It has a commercial core, it has multifamily, it has single family, and the big controversy right now is as we redevelop the commercial core, how much parking should be required. And there's been a huge push to have, golf carts count and bicycles count and pedestrians count. And personally, I think that's great. But selfishly, I live within a walkable range of the commercial area, and I love being able to walk there. And I wish that for all neighborhoods to have walkable neighborhood commercial.
I think practically, if you, and by the way, Davis Islands had a golf course, it has an airport, it's got the largest regional hospital. You get in a car wreck 30 miles away, they're going to pick you up in a helicopter, right? It had a casino, has a marina. I mean, Davis Islands really is a mix of it all.
Can I tell you the backstory?
Sure.
Okay, so you see how, now I have this cool pointer.
There you go.
Yeah. So all of this property is where the public realm is. You've got the marina, you've got the great tennis courts, the regional hospital, and you know, great dog parks here,
Mm-hmm.
and a great public swimming pool. It's really extraordinary. Davis had planned to build that stuff anyway, but the people who lived along Bayshore
Yep.
did not want the city of Tampa to sell what were basically big and little mud flats, little mud flat, big mud flat,
Mm-hmm.
to this developer. It went to the state Supreme Court, who determined that if 20% of the property on the island were given to public uses, that the city could sell it. Well, the city, of course, wanted to make money, and so they sold the property to Davis. He developed it and put all of the commercial uses, the public uses, facing the little island, which had been industrial. It's where this phosphate was put into ships. One of the results of this is because the city, being cheap, put the municipal hospital on public land. Selfishly, as an island resident, it's fabulous. But who in a hurricane zone puts a hospital on an island?
Yeah.
Maybe not the smartest idea, but it's
Well, I think that's why the hospital is very smart to push for this, like not regional, but medical district where
yes.
they've made that deal in Ybor City to put more resources over there. It'll be, I think, like an innovation district almost. Then they're on Kennedy Boulevard doing a rehabilitation center,
which is very accessible to the crosstown.
Yeah, and Tampa General, I believe, sort of has its own like transportation shuttle system. So they're going to figure out a way to make it easier for people to get to all these different campuses. So, yeah, I guess if you could turn back the clock, that might be like the worst place ever for a regional hospital.
But the view, God, I had a baby there. The view is great.
I was born there. I mean, it's, my dad was born there. It's fantastic. It's been piecemealed over the years. If you look at an aerial, you can see the old building and all the additions in the 70s, and then, the fabulous new building they're putting up,
Yes.
which my opinion is that we needed an iconic, beautiful new building on that corner because that backside of the hospital didn't look too good on the waterfront there. And so to have that beautiful new building, I don't know, it kind of adds to the waterfront.
What does Puya Ali?
I don't know. Click that, David. Puya, is it find a doctor? It's the name of a doctor.
I guess that's it.
There you go. David, zoom out and show the entire neighborhood of Davis Islands. What I wanted to say with in regards to the parking was, if you add a bunch of restrictions to the land development code, like let's say, oh, you have to have 7 parking spaces per X square footage, whatever the case may be on Davis, you're not going to get the redevelopment I think we all might be hoping for. If you buy one of these buildings, these commercial properties on Davis that is grandfathered in, so to speak, and was built before all these codes, how do you expect a new commercial building to go up to not require 10 different waivers or go through a contentious PD process at City Council where all your neighbors are going to show up and fight you? There's something to be said about allowing this little village the capacity to be more flexible.
I agree. And that's very controversial as an
Sure.
island resident, but
Yeah.
I don't want to see multi-floored structured parking next to the commercial area. I really don't. And I live not so far away, but I feel like people will make their way there, and it would change the energy. For example, Davis Islands used to have this cute little bridge going over, but then it was replaced by the Army Corps of Engineers scale bridges that we have now, and you lose something in the enlargement of the scale. You lose some of the quality.
100%. Those bridges are terrible. There's rust showing, and I mean, they need to be replaced.
Can I tell a good story?
Sure.
Kennedy Boulevard, when I was first on council, they were considering putting, this is again Florida Department of Transportation, maybe not my most favorite public entity. They were considering doing this enormous bridge over, it would have gone from Ashley all the way to the First Baptist Church. It was going to be this enormous, huge, separated, double span, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, no pedestrian will live to tell. And I knew that there was a federal law that you couldn't use public federal money if you destroyed something that was historic. And we were able to keep the original Kennedy Bridge, which is now so well used by pedestrians going from Hyde Park to downtown and vice versa for UT kids, for all of us. And it's a charming historic bridge.
It's beautiful, actually. We were on a boat ride yesterday. I was the guest of a new podcast coming out. Tom DeGeorge is going to host it. So we talked about the relationship between real estate, growth, community, neighborhoods, et cetera, which I think is the most important conversation the city can have right now. And I do want to go back to Davis Islands for a second.
But this is the original historic bridge, and it's
gorgeous.
And it's walkable.
It's almost like something you'd find in Europe or elsewhere. The UT kids use it, walk on it all the time. It's when you walk over, it's a beautiful view from both sides of the river, and it's so wide. It's such a thick bridge. It's just pretty.
I think we're going to be able. I believe that we're going to have a river walk on the west side of the river also.
Yep.
And so that'll encourage even more use.
Absolutely. Back on Davis Islands. So what do you think, and what's the consensus from your neighbors about creating, does Davis Islands need an overlay district of some sort like Ybor City? Now, the viability of it with the state legislature and et cetera, et cetera. But you do have elements that make an argument for that. You've got this historic nature. You've got the mixes of use. You have many residents that feel protective over their lifestyle of single family living. But then you've got a lot of people that have moved to Davis Islands because of the mix of use. They want that golf cart lifestyle. They like having the little village and the gas station and all that right there. But have the city construct a parking garage on some of the city-owned land. In exchange, create no parking minimums on the commercial corridors to help get some redevelopment going. It's just an example.
I have tried very hard, very hard to have some level of protection just for the historic buildings on the island.
That too, yeah.
In 2024, in the spring, actually it was in March, we had a beautiful walking tour and driving tour of 12 original historic buildings. So that was great. That was in the spring. In at the end of September, we had 2 hurricanes, which then wiped out a number. I mean, maybe up to 50% of the homes and buildings on the island had damage. So before the hurricanes, I was trying hard to see if we couldn't get an overlay, a protective historic overlay, and I hit a wall with resistance. And after the storm, it was even a greater pushback because everybody said folks are just scrambling to survive. You can't tell them what to do. And as a result of the storm damage, we've lost, let's say, 10% of our 50 most historic buildings. I mean, it's really been painful.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I can tell you, there is no consensus. I've been around politics long enough to be able to tell if there's, an opportunity for coming together.
And you live in the neighborhood.
And I live in the neighborhood. People don't agree. I mean, they really don't agree.
It is a sharp world and a wide array of opinions on Davis Islands. It's so fascinating to me. You get the most forward-thinking, ambitious, I'll say, I was going to say younger, like people that are starting families and people in their 40s that have lived on the island for 10 years, 15 years, that are looking at this with open arms. But then you've got people that grew up on Davis Islands that appreciate it, like yourself. It really is such an interesting neighborhood that needs help. And, you've got storm resiliency conversation, right? Too bad you can't turn back the clock. He should have built this whole thing like 3 feet higher, right? You would have.
Clarity of hindsight.
It would have been nice.
No one ever thought the island would flood the way that it flooded.
Yeah.
But the other problem, in my opinion, is that because at this point the price of land is so high, I think it's like insanely high, and people who purchase the property speculatively want to build to every last square inch. So they want to build a lot of volume, but they don't want to invest necessarily in the quality of the materials. I think there's a lot of extremely large, expensive, but mediocre homes that are going up right now. And I actually called a developer the other day because the place they're building is so ugly. And I said, who designed this? And he said, well, we're actually out of Orlando and we're contractors. And we sold these in Orlando. So we just thought we'd build one in your neighborhood. And I thought, this is just ugly. And I think that human beings want something that's more attractive. And if you're going to build something ugly, at least put lots of trees around it. But they built so close to the property lines that there was no room for any substantive tree.
It's probably impossible to get rid of people and businesses that are strictly financially motivated. But I think it would help a lot if, we talked about the little poem moment over there. What neighborhood would that be? VM Ybor?
Yes.
Right. It's like if you're walking down a clean street, you're less inclined to throw your cigarette out. If it's a dirty street, who cares, right?
Exactly.
There's a societal pressure to beauty and to design and to history and to stories. If one of the answers to some of this stuff might be to further that public art and design and heritage and everything we've talked about, so that when someone from Orlando comes to Tampa and wants to develop something, they feel a sense of like, oh, we need to lean in this direction. Oh, we should think about how we design this space or this house.
It's a combination of laws and public opinion. And having worked on the legal side of it, because the reason that I ran for city council is because city council makes the land use decisions for the city. But what I've seen is that public education is ultimately better. For example, in Tampa, Hyde Park looks marvelous and it has laws, but Parkland Estates looks fabulous and it is absolutely unprotected with any kind of expectation of zoning overlay and setbacks and massing and this sort of thing. But there's a cultural expectation that if you build in this neighborhood, you will not build something that's going to make your neighbors crazy. And there's a fair amount of new construction, but it's really tasteful. It really fits in with the surrounding energy.
Do you think infrastructure has anything to do with it?
Absolutely.
So, and the reason I ask is Parkland Estates has very, very beautiful layout, right? You've got some streets that have these medians with these big, beautiful oak trees. You've got the oak
Yes.
canopy, which is so cool and so southern.
And the streets are brick,
The streets are
and there
brick.
are sidewalks.
But here's the thing, it's like the infrastructure there definitely needs some money injected into it. A lot of the roads are busted up, particularly because of those oak trees. That
The city has replaced a lot of them recently,
good.
and done it in a very high quality way. I walk there for exercise. And I've done it
Recently,
for
as
years.
in like in the last
2
couple,
years.
yeah, 2
Yeah.
years. So there, I don't know what you've seen, but certainly in my lifetime, I've seen more infrastructure work done in the last 24 months than ever. I mean, more roads being paved, more sidewalks. It's good. But do you think that has anything to do with the design of development? Do you think if the sidewalks are in and there's curbs and they're in good shape and there's no potholes and it's a clean, beautiful brick street, do you think that influences a home builder to build something more?
Absolutely, because the lot will be more valuable. I mean, the city of Tampa traditionally did not require curbs or sidewalks. And that's why when you go into neighborhoods, many of them don't have that.
Mhm.
And some of them, a lot of neighborhoods have swales
Oh,
for
yeah.
drainage, and those are so dangerous. When it rains hard, people can drive into them inadvertently and drown. I mean, they're really dangerous. But all of that is expensive because you can't just put a curb. You have to have a drainage system for the stormwater to flow into. And so the good news is that we have many neighborhoods with this, but the infrastructure, the original investment, is about 100 years old. So it needs a lot of reinvestment.
I live in the deep south, south of Gandy. And you know, we got a lot of ditches. We have a lot of streets with no sidewalks, and it's an area with a lot of demand. And so you do have the turnover of some of the old homes being torn down. I mean, since the hurricane came, there's a lot of new construction moving in. It just looks so strange with a brand new house with a ditch in the front yard or on a side street. Seems like now that these areas that may have been neglected, their infrastructure is neglected, the new construction hopefully will influence the political direction to inject funds into those neighborhoods to fix that
It
infrastructure.
needs to happen. And
Yeah.
there was a time when I was first on city council that there was a law that you're supposed to put a sidewalk in front of your house if you built a new house. But every person asked for that law to be waived, and it was just routinely waived. And I said, wait a minute. If we say starting today, you have to put in your sidewalk, even if it's just the first little piece, with all the redevelopment that's taking place, eventually there'll be a continuous sidewalk. And even if it isn't, a little piece of sidewalk when your child's trying to, learn to ride their tricycle is better than no sidewalk at all.
Right.
So we changed the law, and there have been fewer, unfortunately not none, but fewer waivers of the sidewalk requirement.
Yeah.
But the question you asked, would public infrastructure investment influence what's built? And the answer is 1,000%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even the street out front here needs, I mean, we have a long way to go. I think, like we talked about, there's been more infrastructure work done in the last 2 years than there has in the last, I don't know, 40. Let's just be safe, right? Decades. So I think a lot of people notice that and they're happy about it. But the idea that we're there,
Oh,
we have a long way to go. And I think it's funny. New people are like, oh, this is like kind of, crappy. Why do these neighborhoods not have curbs and all this? And I'm like, dude, you have no idea. In the 90s, 20, 30 years ago, it was way, way, way worse.
Well, and the other problem is everything's expensive. Tree trimming
Yes.
is expensive. But if I were queen of the world, I would just plant oak trees everywhere, close together, because the canopy you get from that, it does everything good. That is the single most important thing you can possibly do.
I think they're absolutely gorgeous. They just come with so many negative externalities.
Well, the fact that they tear up the sidewalks in the street.
That's one of them. Sidewalks, roads, the leaves, they clog our storm system, the pollen. but they
It's
sure are pretty.
complicated. Well,
Is there a different species we can come to an agreement on that doesn't produce those same issues?
I think that the leaves fall from the wall.
That's true. But a lot of those canopies were planted by the developers of those suburban neighborhoods. Those were South Tampa, like a lot of those neighborhoods, Beach Park and Parkland Estates, those were suburbs. Like people think of suburbs as Carrollwood. People think of suburbs as Riverview, but the South, these were the suburbs, like our family, right? The Latin community, when they left Ybor and West Tampa, a lot of them either went up to Seminole Heights, which is where my family initially went, which was the first sort of suburb in the early 1900s.
Right.
And then you started to see some development move South Tampa. That's why there's so many ranch homes in the 50s and 60s, right? But yeah, a lot of those trees were only planted, say, 80 years ago. Like even if you look at the Palmacia Golf Course, that was, I think, through a project in the 80s, wasn't it? Wasn't there like an arbor project in Palmacia? Because when you look at Palmacia
Yes,
from the
yes.
early 1900s,
There
it's
weren't.
Florida scrub. It's the
Yeah.
palmettos. It's the pine trees. There's more. There's probably 100 times more oak trees now than there were naturally.
Absolutely. And the good news is most of them are live oaks because the laurel oaks are biting the dust. So it's really important that we get the longer term.
How long do those last?
Laurels are only about 70 years, and live oaks will live a couple of hundred. So
Thank God. We'd be in trouble if we were, because all of them would need to be replaced at once. Can you imagine?
well, that was why this marvelous man in Hyde Park made it his mission to get the laurels replaced with live oaks on 3 streets, and it's transformative.
When you go down Willow and you see the water at the end of the street and you're sort of going down that hill with that oak canopy, it's incredible. And that's the street, for Christmas, they've got the lights, they really band together during Halloween. And there's something really special about those oak canopies. Because when you go to a city like Denver or other areas in the country, I mean, Tampa has one of the best tree canopies of any city. I think we were actually #1 in the world for a long time. It's been reducing year after year, which we can talk about that because I know you're an advocate for trees. Yeah, we've got something special to hold on to. I don't know how you match infrastructure with these oak trees.
Well, the other big challenge now is climate change, which results in a requirement that in floodplain A, which is a chunk of the city, that things be built up high. And what's being done right now on Davis Islands is that they're taking a regular house and building 10 or 12 feet of just something underneath it, and then sticking a normal house up, and it's very unattractive and disproportionate. And I'm desperately seeking examples of homes like this that are well done, that are thoughtfully done. And I'm thinking that we're going to have to mentally change our thinking to like Pinellas County by the water, how there are thoughtful, beautiful homes that are built up on piers because they have to be, and we have to recognize that some neighborhoods like mine might have to start designing specifically for the elevated living space.
Well, one of the issues is you can't technically have any livable space on that ground floor.
Right. So it just has to be.
And so when they design it basically as a garage. And then after you close, you get your contractor in there and you do a little game room or whatever it is on your pool level. There's been this workaround since those laws were in place. Maybe we should think about, and this might even have to come from the federal government, right? But what if we just said you can do anything you want as long as there's no bedrooms on that ground floor? Then you might see more creativity. You could still design those ground floors in terms of the electrical system, in terms of the use of the rooms, but let's recognize we live in a unique state, and yeah, we should build new construction above a floodplain, of course, but we're giving away so much with these. They almost look, I mean, some of them kind of look ridiculous. It's like this pedestal with a single staircase going up the front door. You've got the garage bays, and then you open the garage and it's like hangout space, and it's very mismatched.
I feel like good design is the answer to everything, and we need to put some real thought into what's being created. I want to talk for just a minute, if I may, about the Century Club. Can I talk about that?
Let's do it.
Okay, so a few of us, there's a marvelous not-for-profit organization of urban design do-gooders, and we are called the Tampa Bay Community Design Center. This year we're celebrating 50 years of existence. So we started out when we were all young, and we're still at it, and we have many new young members. So we are advocates for good design and also preserving historic buildings. The Century Club is a new initiative, and we're going to have our big birthday party in April at the Newman Cigar Factory, where we celebrate people who have 100-year-old buildings. It could be a home, it could be a church, it could be a library, it could be the people who put out fires, a fire station. We have 300-year-old fire stations in Tampa. And because it's so much work to keep an old building going, that you need to celebrate and sort of recognize and elevate the status of people who've made these investments and talk it up, because we want to keep as much as we can. And so people can come to the birthday party for their house, and then they can either buy a plaque or a banner, if they'd like, for the exterior of their building. I think it's going to be fun.
I think it's fantastic. And how can people sign up for it?
Contact me and I'll tell you, or go to...
So if you have 100-year-old building
Or older.
You can show up, sign up, be a part of this.
Yes, it's $25.
$25.
And you get to go to the birthday party.
And do you want to give people an email address, or how can people contact you to sign up?
I would love that. And probably the easiest thing right now would be my email address.
Okay.
And let's make it the Tampa Bay Community Design Center, which is tbcommunitydesign.org. And on the website, not at this moment, but very soon, we'll have the application for people. But it's super simple. It's like your name, the address.
So this is the Tampa Bay
Yes.
Community Design Center's website,
Yes.
tbcommunitydesign.org. Get on the list,
Thank you.
sign up. All the info's here. Century, you've even got a Century Club banner at the top. Click that, David. Boom. Right here.
Yes.
April 21st, 2026,
yes.
6:30 to 8:30 at the J.C. Newman Cigar Factory in Ybor City. So $25 include one ticket. The first annual Century Club birthday party. I love it.
It's going to be fun.
Very cool.
Oh, and the other thing that I'm asking people to do is, can we talk about Garcia the crab?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into that too.
So, years ago, if you were going up the North Boulevard toward over the Hillsborough River toward Palm Avenue, you would see there was a streetcar bridge called the Garcia Bridge. And on your right in the water were fishing boats. And there was a little crab shack there, a little fish shack, and you could buy deviled crabs. And so that's been replaced by a larger bridge, and you've got the whole Armature Works development to the east. But one thing that we have now is a traffic circle. And we were thinking it would be really great to have a sculpture of a crab in that location to remind us of the fishing boat and the deviled crab. So I would love to see a sculpture of this crab with a loaf of Cuban bread in one hand and hot sauce in the other claw. And the amazing thing is, we've gotten funding from the city to do public art in this traffic circle. And the committee that's putting this together hasn't decided what it should be yet, but I think it needs to be Garcia the crab.
I love the idea of
It
playing
would
on
be
that
so
heritage.
much fun. It would be fun. It would make you smile. And Lord knows we need more smiles. So if people think this is a good idea, they could email Tampa Community Design Center and say, yes, go with Garcia the crab.
So Michelle Smith was on the show. She's the president of the Tampa Arts Alliance.
Yes.
And she was explaining that right now they're undergoing the process to do two of these, some sort of sculptures on these roundabouts.
Yes.
So
Is she a committee member?
I believe so.
Ooh, then we could lobby her.
There you go. Lobby her. And I think we actually talked about, didn't we talk about on that episode, Garcia the crab? And we pulled up like Google image crab sculpture because we're trying to visualize like what? Because here's the thing with what your idea, it could easily go down a road that doesn't look good. It could, you know what I'm
True.
saying? Like
Art is always a crapshoot.
yes,
Yes, I
yes.
really get that.
So it's like, how do you get that right? And I think when we looked up Google Images, we were like, okay, that looks that's a good iteration of what this could be.
I
Do
was
you
not,
have a concept yet? Like
no, I
something
don't
to
have
show? Okay.
No, but I think it's all about picking the right artist. Oh my goodness, look at these. Oh, I
See,
had
so
wow.
yeah. Like that's pretty cool. Because
Yeah.
it's got to be a blue crab, right?
I don't know.
You're not going to do a stone crab, right?
No. It's got to be a blue crab, but I thought you meant like the color blue.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Well, but I think what really makes Garcia special is the hot sauce in one hand and the Cuban bread in the other claw.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's really the celebratory thing. I'm blown away that there are all these.
I know there's a lot of
crabs.
crab sculptures here.
I'll tell you something.
See on the left, look at the one on the left with yeah. Pull that up. See, it can't be like a Disney World version. You know what I mean? That I don't know about that.
Well, the city of Tampa has mostly good public art and some horrible public art. And I'm a big proponent of public art, but it's tricky.
It is tricky.
So that's why they have a committee, and God willing, they'll say no to this, yes to that.
Yeah, look at like a classic Florida crab shack. Oh, this is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is like a total tourist destination, but you get it.
Yeah.
We
But
need
then
to
you have
avoid
some that are very, very tasteful.
Absolutely. Like these metal ones are really kind of cool. And David, if you go back on the street view, you could see before the roundabout when you, I think, yeah. And then look to the right. Wasn't there a crab shack for a long
Yes,
time?
Mattasini. I remember it. And there's the river. And so, and do you remember the Clara Fry Hospital was right, on the other side of the bridge. So what's particularly interesting about
Yeah.
this intersection, in terms of the ethnicity of the city, you had a black neighborhood immediately south. Then you had a white neighborhood south of that. And then to the east and west, you had West Tampa and Ybor City. And the streetcar made a big crossing there, north, south, east, and west. So ethnically, this is one of the most diverse areas and intersections, but everybody ate devil crab. I know that for a fact.
Yes. Yeah, and I think even the David's going back in time.
You can see where the river is on the right. Please stop moving. It's getting a little headachy. Where that little white building is, down, or better yet, where the sign is, that's where, before this enormous bridge was built, actually at the base of the bridge, that's where the crab shack was.
So am I remembering that? I mean, it was right
Yes.
before the roundabout was in. There was a little devil crab sign.
And it was on the right.
Yeah.
It was one story, wooden, maybe some screening, very, very modest, very old Southern.
Another thing too, I was thinking, like, how do we express more Tampa culture, right? Because there's so many new people moving here, and I think people crave stories and cultures.
Yes.
And if you're coming from New York and you're moving to Florida, you might have an image in your head that is Florida, and it's like flamingos and the beaches and Orlando or whatever. So I think when people move to Tampa, they would crave some of these stories, and food is a big part of that here
Yes.
in Tampa. David, type in Tampa deviled crab food cart. And the reason I bring it up is I think these would be really, really popular in this city. You see all the time these food trucks pop up that are often, look at this, like on the top left.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you see all the time food trucks popping up around the city, and oftentimes they're just as popular or more popular than like a brick and mortar coffee shop.
That's it, right there.
Oh, is that the crab stand?
Yes. Only it says Sea Breeze, but that's to me what the Mattasini place looked like.
Yeah. I wonder where that was.
It says
Sea Breeze.
which to me the Sea Breeze was south of Ybor City on the right. But that's what my memory was that it looked like, with where it said devil crabs. Yes.
So being more dynamic about allowing things like that. Like imagine if, I don't know, I mean, on the Riverwalk, I know that was a little debatable, right? But on the Riverwalk, if you could have some of these cultural moments where there could be like a deviled crab stand, I'm sure you could find local operators that would love to do that. Like, what if right at Eulalie, the Gonsmarts could pop up a little thing right there on the Riverwalk and sell Tampa street food? Like, Tampa has its own street food, but
Well, like the stuffed potatoes. Do you remember those?
yes,
I think that would be wildly popular.
little Cuban sandwiches. Yeah,
I
100%.
So much fun.
Yeah, little things like that matter. I think they, for so many decades, and I've had on historians on the show to talk about this, and I've had on Nolan Gray, who wrote what was the name of his book? David, help me out. It was about zoning in America. Arbitrary Lines was the name of the book. It was the history of zoning in America,
Fascinating.
and for many, many decades in this country, we went against some of these more particular pieces of culture and instead focused on suburban communities and interstates and roads and stuff like that. We lost a lot of this.
Right.
But what a perfect time to bring it all back now that people are very interested in city living. And also, too, the type of people moving here are metropolitan. They're coming from areas that already have a story written.
And they want this.
They want this.
They want to know the stories. So after I was on city council for 2 terms, which is 8 years, you're supposed to leave, so I did. And for 4 years I was off, and then I was elected for several more terms. But during that off time, a friend and I created something called the Ybor City Ghost Walk, which was an actor-guided walking tour of Ybor City with the idea that if people knew the stories, maybe they'd stop tearing down the buildings. And it was so much fun. And people craved the stories. And some of the people who went on our tours told me stories that I hadn't heard. So it was marvelous. And now other people are doing ghost walks. I feel like the more the better. The more we know, the richer our appreciation of what we have.
Some of the most popular content we put out is historic content, whether it's an old mafia story or Max Herman talking about everything he talks about. Max Herman does these amazing walking tours. Anytime we put out a video with him, hundreds of thousands of views, super popular.
Wow, where in Tampa?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know about this. I haven't been on one of his tours.
So he does downtown walking tours, Ybor City Ghost Tour. He has a ghost tour. And just Ybor City historical tours too. I think he inherited the business sort of from his father, and he runs the tour company now, and we promote him, and he's been on the show several times, and we do everything we can to push people in his direction because it's important. It's important for many different reasons. But yeah, the history component needs to be expressed more and more and more. Everything we do should have that history in mind. Even from, it's like, for example, when the Downtown Partnership is looking at spending money on Franklin Street, thinking about the types of landscaping you're putting in, the colors you're implementing, relate all of it back to a story that's already told. I think anytime, especially in this state, and the era I grew up in probably has a lot to do with this, but like in the 90s and 2000s, every new development in Florida was like this almost Mediterranean faux looking, you know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
this familiar mall look kind of thing. And it seems today in real estate development, people crave authenticity more than ever. And if you look at these large projects, they don't lean in one direction. They lean towards streetscapes and wide sidewalks and mature trees and landscaping. Even the buildings themselves, the facades are all usually unique.
I think the people who did the armature works did a super job.
Yeah, great example.
And people flock there.
I know. I was there this past weekend. I was actually there yesterday too, but it's like, God, this place couldn't be more packed with people. People love it. Love it, and it's a part of history.
Absolutely, and it might have been torn down, and thankfully it wasn't.
It's crazy to sit in that building and look out towards the skyline and realize, hey, only 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was, this was all just neglected, abandoned property. All the spring was all paved over.
Do you know the story of how the police used to have the police building right where the park is now.
They would work on the vehicles there, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they would change the oil right next to the river. Like, what
I
were they
know.
thinking?
Crazy. Yeah, Tom Reese was on the show. Thomas Reese with
Oh, he's
Ecosphere.
terrific.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
fantastic. He explained the whole story. There's other springs too that we can spend a little money on and sort of turn into the Eulalie spring where it's where
Wow.
it could be a real feature for people in all
That
areas of
would
the
be
city.
great.
Sulphur Springs, of course, that has a huge, there's multiple springs along the riverfront. You could create a really beautiful park system there and show off those springs. Fred Ball Park, right, in Palmacia, right off Bayshore, beautiful spring.
And that had been sort of covered up. It was overgrown. Fred Ball Park,
So
before the
there's
city cleaned it out.
There's two large spring heads there. One of them you can't really dig out. It's been a long time since it's covered. There's roads and buildings and infrastructure, et cetera. There's a smaller spring head where the I don't know what you'd call it. It's a circular concrete.
Yes, it's like a pool,
It's like a pool,
but
basically.
you don't swim in it.
They drained it and they pulled out like stop signs and picnic tables and scooters and all kinds of crazy stuff. But if you could imagine having a moment like that Eulalie Spring off Bayshore Boulevard and how many people come to the city and use Bayshore, all the kids from UT that are from the Northeast, I'm generalizing, of course, but all these different people that are not from this area, not from Florida, come to a city and experience a environmental attraction like that.
That's natural.
That's right. That's natural. When you travel, it's cool to find natural features in a city's environment. I mean, when you go to Arizona, seeing the cactuses, I mean, in my opinion, are kind of cool, right? Well, what do we have here in Tampa that can be further expressed? Well, we have springs. It's like imagine walking on Bayshore Boulevard and you take a left and you go over to this like Eulalie type spring and there's fresh water bubbling out of the
That
ground.
would be fabulous.
That's a cool moment, and it connects people to the community when you can create a situation like that.
I love that.
So there's multiple springs all over the city, and he's a biologist who did some of the research and the history and found the grant money. I think he said from like 7 different sources to make that project possible. Work with the city of Tampa to get all that done, but just a really cool, forward-thinking guy. That sees opportunity, and I see the opportunity in it too. I think there's also an economic argument. This is a real destination. Like the reason why people are going to come to Florida is the natural environment. They want the sunshine, they want the beaches, right? The waterfront, the palm trees. Don't you want to see some springs too? They're going to come to the city and they're going to spend money by checking out these springs.
It's surprising to me how few opportunities there are to go on our rivers. Our rivers are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to own a canoe here. I want to rent one and have somebody pick me up at the other end and bring me back to my car. I used to always go to Canoe Escape, and it closed after some flooding a few years ago. So now I'm only aware of one place to go, and I think that could be much more popular.
For sure.
It's so beautiful and tranquil and here.
Yeah, Hillsborough River. I mean, if you like a place like Austin, I see Austin has events on the river and people floating on the river. Why don't more people use the Hillsborough River? I think it's just been neglected for so long.
But we have a lot going on downtown now. I'm thrilled at the number of places you can, rent paddle boards or rent small boats or go out on a boat that somebody else is driving.
Hugely popular. You could go down there right now. It's the middle of the week and there's tourists renting these boats and driving around. So
I made a film almost 50 years ago called City Visions about good urban public spaces. I was a young planner and nobody was talking about this stuff. And I thought, well, if I make a film and it's on TV, everybody in 6 months will transform the city and it'll be great. So we bought these cheap tickets. They were $320 to fly for 21 days on Eastern Airlines. And I put 2 filmmakers and a sound person on a plane, and I went to some of it, but we went out to San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle and filmed parks and cafes and good public spaces and public art and river walks and all the things that these cities offered. and also a little bit, we shot a little bit in Boston. Came back here. I had gotten the money from the Florida Endowment for the Humanities, and they said, you can't do a national film. You can only do a Florida film because for $20,000, you can't do a national film, but we did. And it was a great film and it won a bunch of awards, but it didn't take 6 months for those things to happen. It's taken 40 years, but I'm happy to say that many of those things are now happening here and people love it. And that's why the Riverwalk's crowded. But the only piece we didn't quite solve was the transit. We're still working on that.
Why do you think there's been a culture shift?
Because everybody's more enlightened. I mean, I grew up going to local groceries where you could only purchase iceberg lettuce. I mean, America's become more worldly and sophisticated. People travel, people come here. The whole expectation level has risen. And we are graced at this moment, in my opinion, with some really talented developers. And I will name them because I'm so happy with them. I love what Daryl's doing in Ybor City. The fact that he's going to reintroduce the street grid that had been messed up by the creation of the sheriff's department. For a city, a grid is so critically important. And plus, the development that he's doing is very sensitive design-wise. I love the things that the developer of the Oxford Exchange has done. I think that Blake really understands historic preservation and new construction with character. I think the Stovall House is great. I think Mad Dogs is great. Richard Gonsmart has done an amazing job with where Eulalie has been a marvelous success. The place that a catty corner from the Sicilian place, it's catty corner from the Columbia.
Yeah, Casa Santa Stefano.
The roof was imploding. I think it had fallen in.
Yeah.
And he did a marvelous job with that building. And then you have the idea of taking something that's historic, and the Oxford Exchange building, which had been a stable, taking something that's historic, making it high quality, making it a food destination, and then people go there. They get the idea that the surrounding neighborhood can come back also. Those are just a few examples I think are really exemplary at this moment.
Well, we're only lucky to have those great people
and
here.
It's local talent. Oh, and Daryl and Vinnick. Yeah. What the quality?
The quality, yes.
And the investment in excellent materials and good design. Very environmentally sensitive.
I asked him why take it to that level, right? Because when you look at the streetscape, I mean,
it's first class.
It is so much more expensive to do the infrastructure that way with the bricks, mature trees,
water features,
so
you feel cool.
I bet you could have done the same project half the price on some of those items.
Oh, sure.
But I said, why take it to that level? Said Tampa has not experienced excellence before, and I know the community would love it. And he made that bet and was correct.
Absolutely, and people respond. So in our schools, we don't educate people directly about architecture or design, unfortunately, but people respond to it when it's high quality.
Yes, yeah. And how do we as a city encourage more of that? And
talk about it.
Simple
what you're doing
that?
here. It's one of the things. Years ago when I was on council, I went to the newspapers and said, you need to have an architectural critic. You need to write about this. This needs to be part of the public conversation. They never did it. It was very disappointing. But now some people are, what's it called? 83 Degrees is talking about it.
That's all
creative
we talk
loafing.
about. It's like in some weird way, I've found myself in the media world. I didn't set out to be a media person, but in some strange way, that's what this show is. It is like the development, design, and architectural conversation of the city and of the region.
And you get it. That's why everybody wants to be on your show and talk about this. You're providing a platform for this conversation, which is a very, very important public conversation.
Well, I hope there's more of it. I hope there's 10 different podcasts that pop up that talk about what I talk about. I hope it influences elected officials who listen to the show that can think about these things differently when they go to make a decision. I hope it influences developers. I hope even aspiring developers. There's people that have emailed me that aren't even from this market at all. They're like, hey, we're out of, even other countries. Like I had a Canadian investor email me and say, hey, we're thinking about making some investments. And just to let you know, we've been listening to your show to learn about the area. And
That's great.
yeah,
That's terrific.
and it is great, but I don't think it means anything unless there is a real effect from them listening. And I hope it's that quality standard. I hope people that listen to the show try to think further about design when they go to build. Or is something simple as opening up a business, or hey, I want to open up a coffee shop. Let's really think about the design of the space.
But there's also another thing going on, and that is individual people as consumers. The choice to eat at the local restaurant, the choice to purchase the home that is maybe takes a little more elbow grease, but it has more character.
Right.
All of those choices are important. And as consumers, we make so many choices. The choice to go to the local store rather than ordering it online because it's supporting the neighborhood commercial stores.
Mm-hmm. I think as our world moves more digital, and we're already there big time, I think people will crave the real, the authentic, the real, whether it's people. They'll crave more authentic people, but they're also going to crave those authentic establishments. Why go to the big box store when you can get the same thing at a little local store and the owner and the people that work there?
And the whole idea of if you go to the local coffee shop and then 10 years later you keep going there, you have a kid that needs a summer job. I'm speaking from personal experience. It's all connected. It
Yeah.
really is. And that's good stuff.
It is all connected. And I think it might be the reason why so many people are disengaged civically today, because if you're ordering all your goods and getting your services from your iPhone or your laptop and you're staying indoors, I don't know, why do I care about who my local elected officials are? I don't necessarily, it's not at the top of my mind. But if we all went to the same businesses and restaurants and walked on the same streets and paid attention to all the same issues, we might be more collective when it comes to these things,
It'd be more engaged, certainly.
More engaged. A lot of competition out there, by the way, meaning, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world and nationally in politics, and we're in this very contentious, strange time where everyone is overly aggressive with one another. And it's hard to compete with that and talk about what we talk about on this show. Like when we produce content, sometimes I'm surprised we get the amount of analytics we get, because as you're scrolling on social media and you're seeing missiles fly around the world, and then you come across some guy talking about this wide sidewalk and why it's important to have a shaded, tree for your park bench, it shows me that people do care, but I understand that there's a lot of competition. And so I'm just appreciative people pay attention to my show and the content we produce, because there is a lot out there that is a lot more engaging. That's for sure.
I think that people really crave beauty and they crave the stories, and we all want to feel good. And
Yeah.
the things we're talking about are creating spaces where in our lives we feel good.
And that's what, back to Tampa Bay Community Design Center, I mean, that is sort of what this organization is. It's a
Yes.
group of people that are aligned in the things that we're talking about. Design forward, quality forward, placemaking.
Oh, we had an alley tour a couple of months ago. It was so interesting. It was in Tampa Heights. Turns out there are 5 different types of alleys. It can be dirt, it can be shell, it can be paved, it can be just leaves. And we had somebody from the Tampa Native Plant Group come walk with us and point out all the native plants. If you don't mess with things, and alleys are usually pretty well ignored, you get amazing native plants.
Really?
And it was fascinating. Everybody who went on it
Interesting.
was like, I never really thought about alleys before, but now I realize their value. Plus, if you're like me and you hate to perspire, alleys are shady.
Yes.
A very important quality in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah. It'd be nice if there was an easy solution for growth with alleyways. Like West Tampa in particular has a really cool opportunity. And I know they're trying to create development standards that put the parking in the alleys and some of the ingress for vehicle traffic in the alleys and garages facing the alleys. The issue though is, Americans drive Suburbans. Americans want space, right? And so I've heard from developers that it's difficult to get involved in those communities because of those design standards.
But maybe there's somebody who's smart enough to realize the value of it, like the picture we showed earlier with the brick
Correct.
alley.
Yeah.
You know, variety, there's enough space to go around, and maybe people will self-select.
Yeah. I mean, that's another part of it too. Maybe that community is not one that particular developer or a group of investors should focus on.
Right.
The issue is they focus on it because it's available
Because
and it's less
cheap.
expensive,
Yeah.
right?
But there are other less expensive places too.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to build things that are humane, because that's where we are living. We want to live in places that are satisfactory.
Orient our city and our neighborhoods and our spaces more towards people rather than anything else, frankly.
Like cars, yeah.
Like cars specifically, but also anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm new to this world. You've been working at it for a long time. Are you optimistic? Do you feel like there's
Yes.
great progress and a great future ahead?
I am absolutely optimistic, basically because we have a number of smart people who are moving here from other places who expect these things. They do.
Sure.
And I feel like we've never had a greater opportunity to celebrate our past and to the insistence on quality is really going to come from individual consumers. So the more we can talk about it, the more we educate people, the better things are for the future. But also selfishly, we have a fabulous airport, and so I get to fly and visit other places, which makes me very happy.
That's someone no one argues with. We have a fabulous airport.
I
That's
was
so
there.
true.
I was there only this morning, commenting on how it's truly stood the test of time, which speaks to the quality of good design. I believe that's one of the secrets of the universe.
I totally agree. And I think had they not been progressive in that design in the late 1960s, what would we have ended up with? And how would that have affected our community, right? It's like, if you can be quality forward in the beginning, and maybe it costs a little more time and money, and maybe it's a little more resources to accomplish something, but quality clearly lasts. That airport was designed a long, long, long time ago. And talking with my grandfather and a couple other people, it was sort of controversial. It wasn't like everyone agreed that was the right thing to do. The spoke design with the people move, that was ambitious.
It was unique at the time. It was the first airport that had used that. I did a TV show
It was
once
the
on it.
first?
Yes. The spoke idea was unique to Tampa, and then it's been copied in other places. And the monorail, getting people back and forth, that was like new information. And also the design, the signage design was extremely forward. It's something I'm very proud of.
It's amazing that was all the first, because imagine if it wasn't built that way, what would we be left with on that? Because it's kind of a small parcel. Yeah, Miami or Orlando, where or Atlanta, it's piecemealed. Think about, they haven't had to adjust necessarily their plan over the last 60 plus years that's kind of incredible. Think about that. Not having to adjust the plan. The only thing they've had to do is basically add the spokes, right? Airside D is the new airside. That'll be incredible.
And they have great public art, terrific public art. I mean,
local vendors too, local restaurateurs.
It's really a shining example of what's possible here.
100%. Now we need to get one of those people movers from the airport to downtown.
Hear, hear.
Linda, thank you so much for coming on the show.
This has been fun.
This was great.
Thank you.
I could talk to you for several more hours, so you're going to have to come back and do this again. Lastly, just to reiterate, if people want to get in touch with you, tbcommunitydesign.org. You've got the Century Club on here. Click that support tab. I'm sure people can sign up. Here's membership.
I don't know if our person's put it up yet. Yeah. Oh, good. There we are.
So visit tbcommunitydesign.org and you can get all the resources necessary to get involved.
And our activities are fun.
The walking tours. When's your next walking tour?
Actually, we have a hard hat tour of Tampa Union Station in about 2-3 weeks.
Is that on the website too?
Yes.
Beautiful.
It's
All right.
fun stuff.
Check
and then
it
the
out,
Century
people.
Club. Good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See y'all next week. Bye-bye.